Here are the answers to questions 4 and 5 at the end of Unit 12 in AC201. And in this question, we have Pinion Bowling Instruction, who is entering into a 3-month contract with Leisure Lanes to provide weekly bowling lessons to the middle school bowling team. At the time of signing, Pinion was paid $3,600 in advance for all of these future services. A clause in this contract states that Pinion is going to receive a $1,200 bonus if the bowling team wins its league. Well, now we have variable consideration, if you will. There are two potential outcomes, two scenarios that we have from this contract. Either this team does not win and we get $3,600, or this team does win its league and we not only get the $3,600, we get an additional $1,200 as a bonus for saying, good job, you led us to a championship. Well, when that's the case, you need to put some kind of quantitative figure on how much you can reasonably expect each of these scenarios to occur. And for Pinion, they believe that the chance that this bowling team wins its league is 50%. So there's a 50-50 chance that we're going to get $3,600, our base amount, or we're going to get $4,800, our amount with the bonus for winning the championship. So what is our possible price? It's just that. For winning the league, we would get the base amount of $3,600 plus the $1,200 bonus. We receive $4,800 in total. If we do not win the league, we would just get the $3,600. We believe there's a 50-50 chance of each of these happening. So the probability of winning the league is 50% or 0.5, and the same thing is true for not winning the league. Well, to put an expected value on our contract, what we're going to do is we're going to weight each possible scenario, each possible price that we're going to receive based upon how probable we think that it is. So let's take our possible price for winning the league of $4,800 and multiply it by that 50%, because we think that's going to happen half the time. We come up with $2,400. Let's take our possible price of $3,600 for not winning the league, multiply that by 50%. We think that's going to happen half the time. That comes out to be $1,800. And if we add those two expected considerations together, we get $4,200. And with that, we're saying we think that that's the reasonable, fair value of this contract, which, if you think about it, makes sense. Our two options are $4,800 or $3,600, and they're 50-50 weighted. What's the mid-ground between those two? $4,200. On November 1st, we are going to receive advanced payment. Well, we're not receiving $4,200 because the amount we're receiving in advance is just the $3,600 base. So on November 11th, we need to put that receipt of $3,600 worth of cash, our advance payment, on the books. And we'll do so by debiting cash for $3,600. We're being paid in advance for services to be provided in the future, which by definition means we have not met any of the obligations of our contract. We haven't provided a single bowling lesson to a middle schooler yet, which means we can't record it as service revenue. We've not performed the service. We need to record it as a liability. We owe something now. We owe these lessons. So we're going to record it under unearned revenue. Again, you could record it as unearned service revenue if you wanted to have more specific accounts. Also going to be for $3,600. When we entered into a contract with Leisure Lanes. And then on November 30th, we're going to recognize revenues earned on this contract during the month of November. So now we're not as liable to perform as many obligations in the future. We actually performed some of these services. We get to recognize some of that revenue. Well, the first thing we should do on November 30th is recognize the portion of the actual base level revenue that we put on unearned revenue is now being earned, as being service revenue. So we need to start by decreasing our unearned revenue account. And again, by the nature of this contract, we're providing regular services, regular bowling lessons. The best way to recognize this is straight line. So we would, again, take our original contract amount and divide it by the number of periods, the number of obligations, whatever you want to call it. This is a $3,600 contract, and it is to provide instruction for 3 months to this middle school bowling team. So how much unearned revenue are we going to recognize? How about 1/3 of it? We're going to take that $3,600 and we'll divide it by 3. It's $1,200 of unearned revenue that we're going to recognize. We may, though, in the end, get more than $3,600 from this contract. They may win their league and we may get our bonus, which means we're expecting with some certainty that we're going to receive a bonus in the future. And we're going to record that as an asset called bonus receivable. And to determine the amount of your bonus being recognized, you would take your expected value less the base amount and divide it by the number of obligations that you have. Our expected value is $4,600. Our base amount is the $3,600 we get. So we're thinking that the bonus in this case is going to be $600. Well, it's $600 that we're going to recognize over the 3 months of our obligations. So if you want to put this into a formula, it's going to be 4,200 minus 3,600 in parentheses divided by those 3 months, and that is $200. And we get to recognize this as earned revenue, service revenue. Again, it's just fair to our books to assume that we're going to get some of that bonus, or at least put it on our books as revenue earned during the period, because there is an equal chance that this is going to happen. And if we recorded it without it, we'd be saving all of that bonus revenue for a future period where that doesn't match the period where we actually performed the services, gave the instructions. So what is our credit to service revenue? It's for the $1,400. And we recognized earned revenues on the Leisure Lanes contract. So that was our original estimate. There's a 50-50 chance they're going to win the league. We didn't know the kids at the time. We don't know what kind of bowlers they are. After a month, we've been working with them. Someone went through and were like, these kids are really good. I don't think that 50-50 is a fair shake. I don't think we're recognizing as much revenue as we should be during the period when we're actually earning it, because it's way more likely than not that these kids are going to win the league. Our expected contract value should be way higher than it is. This happens. I mean, we're making estimates here, but in life, you make your best guess on stuff, and sometimes it doesn't go according to plan. This is one of those favorable situations where what actually happened is better for us than, what we thought in the first place. We're pleasantly surprised, if you will. We still have the two same possible prices. They're going to win their league. We're going to get our $1,200 bonus off of our $3,600 base, increasing our total compensation received to $4,800. Or they're not going to win the league, in which case we still get $3,600 from Leisure Lanes. But now we think there's a 90% chance that they win the league, much more likely than 50-50. Which means there's only a 10% chance that they're not going to win the league. Your probabilities always have to add up to 100. So we're going to figure out expected consideration the same way we did before, taking each possible price and multiplying it by its weighted probability. So 4,800 is the possible price for winning the league. 90% chance that happens. That comes out to 4,320. 3,600 if they don't win the league, but there's only a 10% chance that happens. We'll add $360 in revenue to that, and we add those two together. And now our expected contract value is $4,680. Well, we have one problem with our books at this point. We were recognizing bonus at a certain rate based upon what we have deemed now to be a bad estimate of the probabilities of events happening. Like, our bonus is off. We only recognized $200 of potential bonus because we thought there was a 50-50 chance. There's not a 50-50 chance. We have a much higher likely outcome that we're going to, get our bonus because they're going to win the league, which means we don't have enough bonus recognized on our books, or we don't have enough revenue recognized on the books. We are thinking that we're going to get that bonus, and we should be recognizing revenues earned during the same period that we perform the service. So we need to adjust the value of our bonus receivable account. Well, what is our expected bonus value? Same thing that we had before. It is the expected value minus the base amount. Our expected value is now up to $4,680. The base amount is the $3,600 that we'd receive regardless of what happens, what our outcome is. we're expecting $1,080 of bonus. Well, if we had this good estimate from the beginning, how much should we be recognizing? We'd still be recognizing the same way. We'd be taking that bonus and we'd be dividing it by the number of obligations we have. This is a 3-month contract, so we'd be recognized that 1,080 in a straight line over 3 months. So for here, we're going to take the expected bonus and divide it by the number of obligations we should be recognizing that bonus over. And 1,080 divided by 3 is 360. Well, how much did we recognize above? Or how much should we have recognized at this point? If we had gone through and we had done November with this good estimate, we would have put that 360 on the books. So in this case, what we're going to do is firstly, we're going to spell bonus correctly because that's always a good thing. And secondly, we're going to take our monthly recognition and multiply it by the number of months recognized. So if we were making this estimate 2 months in, we'd have to go back and figure out what amount of bonus we should have on our books. Or if it's a longer contract, if it was a 3-year contract and we were a year in and we revised the bonus that we had on our books, we have to go and figure how much we put on to that point. That's what the amount of bonus recognized is. It's what it should have been had you made the good estimate in the beginning. What would be on your books right now? Well, it's not what's on our books right now. So what we need to do here is we need to take the amount of the new amount of bonus recognized, new amount of bonus, minus the old amount of bonus. What the hell am I talking about here? What I'm saying is, how much do we need to increase our bonus receivable by based upon the estimate we had before and the estimate we have now? We should have recognized 360 during the first month. If we had known at the time how good these kids were and expected there was a 90% chance they were going to win the league, we think they're dominant unless they get upset in the playoffs or something, we would have recognized $360 during November. We only recognized 200. So what is the adjustment that we need? It's how much should be on there minus how much is. So again, at this point, you would have to go through and check the existing balance of your T account. It should be what your new amount of bonus recognized is versus your T balance at the time. Since we only have 1 month, 360 minus 200 means we need to increase the amount of bonus on our books by $160. Well, let's make that happen. On December 1st, we are going to go through and we're going to increase the value of that bonus receivable by the amount that it is light, which is $160. What did we credit when we put bonus receivable on the books before? We credited service revenue. We're supposed to be recording these revenues in the periods that they actually happen. We want to have it in the same calendar year here, so we're going to increase our service revenue by that same $160. And here we adjusted prior revenues earned on the Leisure Lanes contract. And then on December 31st, Pinion is going to recognize revenues for the bowling lessons that they gave during December. Well, what's going to happen here? This entry is going to look a whole lot like the entry that we recorded above. We still have to recognize an equal portion of that unearned revenue. We're still going to recognize actual service revenue. Now that we're not liable to perform those services anymore, we can actually record them as revenues. The only thing that's going to change is now we don't think our bonus is going to should be recognized at $200 a month. We revise our estimate to $360. So we're going to start by debiting unearned revenue, decreasing that liability, using the same formula that we used above, which is our original contract amount divided by the number of obligations. 3,600 divided by 3 is still going to be a $1,200 debit to unearned revenue. We're still going to debit bonus receivable, but now we're going to be putting it on the books at our new revised rate. And our new revised monthly bonus recognition is $360 per month. So the amount of service revenue that we are going to be recording in total on this contract at this point in time is whatever makes our debits equal our credits, which is $1,560. which is also conveniently our new expected consideration divided by the number of periods that we had in the contract. So we're good. Our books are working out smoothly now. We're recognizing our expected contract value in equal intervals, and we did so in the December 31st entry when we recognized earned revenues on the Leisure Lanes contract. Moving on to the next question, we have the standalone method over here. And the standalone method is used when you sell bundles of goods below what they would have cost your customers to buy had they bought them standalone, had they bought them all individually. So we're selling multiple things at a time in a bunch, and we're giving people a discount for doing so. So on June 1st, Edelman Media Merchandise Incorporated is going to make a sale to Professor Plume. Professor Plume wants to start producing online videos for his students, and he purchased 3 things. He purchased a webcam, he purchased a microphone, and he purchased video editing software, and did so in a bundle. At the time of sale, Professor Plume paid Edelman Media, which is us, $220 and took ownership of the webcam and the microphone, which means we met the obligations of that sale. He transferred those 2 components of it. When you sell things in a bundle, you have to assign a certain portion of your transaction price to each component of that bundle. So we need to decide how we're going to break down that $220, and we've decided that we're going to assign $120 to the webcam and $100 to the microphone to get to that $220. And then for the next year, Professor Plume is going to pay $15 per month to Edelman Media for the rights to use the editing software. So the thing came in the bundle, but he has a subscription fee. Payment is due on the last day of every month. Okay, got some good information going here, but now it's the standalone method. We need to know what people would pay standalone, like what would Professor Plume have to pay if he didn't buy this in the bundle. And if he didn't buy in the bundle, the webcam alone would have cost him $170. And the microphone would have cost him $150. So that's $320 between the two. He got $100 off by buying in a bundle. Good looking out for him. So what components do we have? We have the webcam. We have the microphone. And we have the software. And then we're going to finish this off by finding the total amount of compensation for each of these different things. So the transaction price, what did we state was going to be the amount of revenue received by the webcam? We declared up here that it was going to be $120. The microphone, out of the $220 he paid, we assigned the other $100. And then how much is Professor Plume going to end up paying in full for the rights to this editing software? Well, it's $15 a month. And it is for a 1-year subscription. So, in total, he's going to pay that $15 12 times for $180. Well, if we total that all up, that means that the total compensation we're going to get from selling all the stuff to Professor Plume, bundled, and at a discount to him, is $400. Let me put a dividing line down here just so it looks smoother. There we go. Well, what would this cost Professor Plume standalone? Well, it tells us right here that the webcam standalone was $170. The microphone standalone was $150. And the software, well, that's already at standalone. It's not a component of the bundle that he got. He's still paying $15 a month for a 1-year subscription for the next year to this software. So that standalone price is still $180. So if we would have not offered our customer this bundle, made Professor Plume buy everything individually, acquiring the webcam, the microphone, and the software would have cost Professor Plume $500. Well, let's find our selling price ratio, which is basically our standalone ratio. It's what portion of that overall standalone price he would have paid respectively for the webcam, the microphone, and the software. And you find it by taking the standalone price of any one component and dividing it by the total price of all the goods that were purchased. So 170 out of that 500 would have come from the webcam. That's 34%. 150 out of that 500 would have been because Professor Plume purchased a microphone. That's 30%. And 180 out of that 500 would have been because he is paying for the subscription for the video editing software. Well, let's be thorough here and make sure that adds up to 100%, because we need to account for 100% of our revenues, obviously, and it does, so we're good. So now we have the allocated transaction price, which is basically, he didn't pay $500, he paid $400. How much of that are we going to assign to each one of these different components of the bundle? Well, let's assign it amount of that $400, which is proportionate to what Professor Plume would have paid if he bought everything standalone. The total bundle was $400. If 34% of what he paid would have been because of the webcam, if he bought everything standalone, let's assign 34% of that revenue to the webcam. That's $136. The microphone would have been 30% of all standalone costs. So let's assign the microphone 30% of the $400 Professor Plume's going to pay for purchasing a bundle. That's $120. And then let's assign the last 36% of that $400 to the software license that Professor Plume has here. And that comes out to $144. So now when we add this up, this better come up to the total transaction price that we had for these bundled goods. And when we find the sum of those three numbers, it is indeed $400. So what we're saying now is, out of the $400 we're going to receive in total, 136 of it should be because of the webcam, 120 should have been because of the microphone, and 144 is because of the software. Well, on June 1st, when we sell this package to him, we need to record this and recognize the revenues from the actual sale. So on June 1st, we're going to start by recording how much cash we are receiving. How much cash did Professor Plume assign or pay us to buy this bundle? He paid Edelman Media $220 when he took ownership of the webcam and the microphone. So we can't put $500 or $400 or anything else on the books. We can only put cash on for the actual amount of cash that we received, which is $220. I'm going to skip a line right now and go down to our sales revenue. What did we actually sell? I mean, what components of this can we recognize the revenue for? Well, he took possession of the webcam and the microphone. The webcam and the microphone, which means if we're allocating this much to each one of these items in the transaction price, that's the amount of sales revenue we should be recognizing. So sales revenue is going to be the 136 plus the 120. That comes out to be 256. Well, we got an issue right now. Our debits don't equal our credits. We would need another debit for our books to work out here of $36. And what are we going to assign that to? And in this case, what we're saying here is we have an asset. This stems from a contract, and that contract is the subscription to our video editing software for the next year. It's part of the reason that Professor Plume bought this in a package. And we're going to record that $36 asset as an account called contract asset. And here we're going to say that we sold a bundled media package. Well, let's fast forward words in time to June 30th, when Edelman is going to receive the first $15 monthly payment from Professor Plume for editing software. Well, we're receiving the payment of $15. So again, you have to put cash in the books for what you're actually receiving. We're receiving $15 in cash. Should we recognize all of that as service revenue right now? And the answer to that is no, because we're saying that a portion of the price that we got was because this was all bundled together. And we put a $36 asset on the books for the future value that we're going to receive from the payment from Professor Plume for the subscription to the software. So what we need to do here is we need to first devalue our contract asset. And we're going to do that in a straight line. We're going to take the original amount of the asset, and we're going to divide it by the number of obligations, the number of payments that we're going to receive from Professor Plume. So the original amount of our asset was $36. It is a 1-year subscription that he is paying, so if we divide 36 by 12, we get 3. So we're going to decrease this contract asset by $3 each and every month. And if we do that for 12 months, it's going to be the full $36. It's going to be off of our books. Well, our debits don't equal our credits. What's our credit going to be? It's going to be for providing him a service, for allowing him to use our video editing software. Access to that service, and that's going to be for $12. And here we received our monthly payment for editing software. So why would you do this? It's because knowing that Professor Plume could have access to the editing software was a driver in his decision to buy this package. He knew that he could get the webcam and the microphone for cheap, and the software existed. Well, if we just recognized the assigned transaction price right here, it's asking your webcam and your microphone to absorb the hit of the entirety of the discount. Doing it this way, we're also making software, I guess, have to pay its portion of this. We're recognizing $12 per month for the next 12 years, so that's $144 is the allocated transaction price.